Hello friends and welcome back. If you are new here, I am Yessi and we are currently soon going to be entering into our third year of homeschooling. In today's video, I want to share with you all what are the differences between homeschooling and traditional schooling from the perspective of a traditional school teacher and also a homeschooling parent. So make sure to stick around and watch. So before I started homeschooling, I would hear people talking about how homeschooling and traditional education were different. And in my mind, I didn't really understand what exactly that meant. Because in my mind, I thought homeschooling was just you doing school at home. And I didn't really understand fully what they meant when they would say that it was different. Now I feel like I can confidently talk about what are these differences now that I've experienced it for the past 2 years, moving on to our third one, from a homeschooling parent and also a parent that is currently working in traditional education as well. So the very first obvious reason between homeschooling and traditional education is the setting. The setting is very different. So when you go traditionally to school, you would go into a school building, and in that school building is typically divided into grade levels, and then those grade levels then have classrooms in them, and typically you would have about 25 kids in them, all in the same grade level. And depending on the school and the grade level, some of them are departmentalized by subjects and others are just, the same teacher all day long. With homeschooling can happen anywhere, not just inside your home. It can happen outside. You can take schooling over to a park. You can school in the car. You can school at somebody else's home. You can school in a co-op with other children that also homeschool. You can host a small homeschool group in your home. Like, homeschooling can happen anywhere. Traditional schooling typically happens between the hours of 7:30 to 3 o'clock, anywhere in those times. Homeschooling can happen at any time in the day. It can happen in the morning. It can happen in the afternoon. It can happen in the evenings. It can happen during weekdays. It can happen during weekends. So the scheduling even of when schooling takes place in homeschool is very different than the traditional 7:30 to 3 o'clock Monday through Friday. The second difference that there is the choice in curriculum. So in traditional education, typically the teachers teach with the curriculum that is provided to them by their district or by their school building, whatever the choice may be. And typically those curriculum align with whatever the state standards are, whether they are a Common Core state or not. When it comes to homeschooling, the parent has the freedom in choosing what curriculum they would like to teach their children with, or even if they are not choosing a specific curriculum. Okay. So, for me here in Pennsylvania, when we put our affidavit into homeschool, we also have to provide our objectives for the year. In my case, we do use a curriculum. We use ABECA, which is an all-inclusive curriculum. It includes all the subjects for teaching, and all the objectives and all that fun jazz is already included with the curriculum. We chose to use that curriculum because it fits our family's purposes. When it came to homeschooling, we wanted to provide our children with a Christian education. We wanted to provide our children with a really high quality education, which we feel that with the curriculum that we have, we get, and our kids also love the curriculum. I will make a completely separate video as to why is it that we choose the curriculum that we have chosen to homeschool with. However, you don't have to just choose one curriculum to homeschool with or a curriculum at all. You can piece it, choose to use these activities. You can make your own activities. You can buy a curriculum, math curriculum from here, or get a reading curriculum from here, or you can choose to buy an all-in-one curriculum or make your own curriculum. Really, you as the parent, you have the freedom to choose with what you are going to teach your children. And you really align your teaching based on what your state's homeschool requirements are. So you really need to look at your laws in your homeschool state and go from there. In PA, we just have to make sure that we address all of the subjects that they require in our state laws. So maybe I'll do another video at some other time as to how is it that you homeschool in PA. Another difference between homeschooling and traditional education is that homeschooling looks different for everybody. There is just not one way that is similar for everybody. Typically in a traditional classroom, you go into the building, you differentiate teaching based on student abilities, and if a student has an IEP or if a student is gifted, X, Y, and Z. There's all these components that you have to think about before you teach a curriculum, and how are you going to make changes and differentiate instruction to make sure that you reach all your student needs. When it comes to homeschooling, really, you are focusing on your children, however many children you have, and you differentiate instruction and tailor the instruction just to those particular children that you have in your home. So every family is different. Every family dynamic is different. So schooling at home looks very different for every family. I personally just have 2 children, one in upper elementary and one just starting out going into the 1st grade now. And it looks very different for my daughter than what it looks for my son. And they have completely different personalities. And the homeschooling day for each of them looks a little bit different from one another. And also the ratio to the adults. Like at home, we have a 2-to-1 ratio, where at school, your child might have a 25-to-1 or 13-to-1 or whatever it is that the school has, available based on staff. So that aspect is different. No one homeschooling family looks the same as another homeschooling family, because everybody's family's dynamics are different. They have different age children, different amount of children. If there is a single parent home, so it's very different for everyone. Another way that homeschooling is different than traditional education, kind of goes along with my previous one, is that homeschooling is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle of learning. You cultivate and you develop this learning lifestyle where learning can happen at any time, anywhere. And, you kind of cultivate this independent wanting for researching and finding more information on things that interest you, your children, and then you can see what their interests are and really drive their learning and their instruction based on those things that they really, really do enjoy. When it comes to traditional education, it's in the building. Okay, it's there. It happens in the classroom and during those times. And from personal experience, I can attest that when my child was going to traditional school and he came home, the last thing he wanted to do was more learning. He would do his homework and then he wanted to be done. Like, he wanted nothing to do with any more school. Like, us trying to get him to read out of school hours was really hard, because even though I was a parent that I read to my child all the time and did all those things before he started going to school, once he started going to school, he developed this mindset that the learning was going to happen at the school building, and that anything when he came home, it was supposed to be home time and not working time. He just developed that mindset that, truth be told, a lot of kids do. They do their homework and then they want nothing else to do with it. When we start homeschooling, we had to break that mentality. And now he's okay with learning at any time of the day because it's just how homeschooling has become part of our life. Like, we learn at multiple times a day. It's not just dedicated during these hours, during these days. It can happen at different times. So that's just a difference that I've noticed in my family. It has the mindset. The mindset has changed from learning happening in a building during the weekday, during those times, to now learning can happen anytime, anywhere, any day of the week. And then the very last difference that I have is that the responsibility of education is on the parent. It is a really big responsibility. You are taking on that you are going to provide your children with a high quality education, and you are going to prepare them for life when they grow up, and I personally think that homeschooling is like the best form of instruction that we could give our children, because our children are living life. I feel like everything that we do with them is a lifelong skill. They're learning what life is like on an average every day, not just in a building. When it comes to traditional education, the responsibility really on educating falls on the district or the school. And yes, parents should be involved in their children's education. They should take part of their children's education, even if they are in a building. Trust me, if you are a parent who sends your children to traditional education, please involve yourself in your child's education. As an educator, we appreciate when parents just involve themselves in, the educating of their children. It makes learning so much possible in the classroom when there is support from parents at home. But typically it's seen as the school system has the responsibility of teaching the child. They're the ones that do assessments. They're the ones who progress monitors, send out report cards, meet the state standards, all that fun jazz falls on the school, truancy and attendance and all those things. Homeschooling, you are taking on all of that. You're taking on the record keeping, depending on the state. I know in our state, we need our portfolio. We need samples of student work and all that fun jazz. And we need to keep track of the days or hours that we homeschool. So all those administrative responsibilities falls on the parent, as well as the educating aspect, which to me, I love. I have no problem doing that, and neither does my husband. And like I've mentioned in a previous video, you don't need a teaching degree to be your child's homeschool teacher. You have been teaching your children since the day they were born. And really, I sometimes feel like parents feel a little insecure because, I'm not a teacher and, I can't do this. And the truth is, yes, you can. You just have to change the mentality that, school at home is going to look like school at school, because it's very different. You develop the culture in your home. You develop the structure in your home. You develop the vision and the philosophy that you want to implement in your homeschool. And that is a lifestyle. Okay. So I just wanted to address those differences between traditional education and homeschooling. If I missed something, guys who are watching, if there is another difference that between the two, please go ahead and mention it in the comments below. I always love hearing from you. If there is something that you enjoy a lot about homeschooling, or if you enjoyed more about traditional education, go ahead and also mention that in the comments below. I always love hearing from you, and I know that as a community, we always love hearing from one another. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye!